Everyone, and welcome to Reviews at Ryan, and today on the channel I'm going to be talking about the brand new drama horror film called So Vam. This will be premiering on Shudder on August the 23rd and was directed by Alice McKay. She's done some short films and she also has this film and another film upcoming called Bad Girl Boogie. But before I get into my thoughts about this film, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, comment below your thoughts on this video, and also turn on the notification bell so you never miss any video that I post. And I post weekly. And now without further ado, let's get into my thoughts on the brand new film, So Vam. After being kidnapped by a predatory old vampire, Kurt becomes part of a gang of rebellious vampires who feed on bigots and abusers. The film stars Chris Asmos, Emma Bleeby, Jessica Burgess, Molly Ferguson, Zai, and many others. So receiving the screening So Vam, obviously I knew nothing about this film. Seeing the poster, I was kind of taken back because I'm really picky on vampire films. Most of the time, I'm not really a big fan of vampire films. It has to be kind of the exception to the rule if I'm going to probably like a film like that. A lot of times they're kind of silly to me, so I can't really get into it, and I never really get scared by them or anything like that. So what was really extraordinary, at least about this film, is the filmmaker, Alice McKay, in this. She's only 17 years old. That's a really awesome accomplishment to get a film on Shudder at only 17 years old. I can't think that many directors of that age probably get that accomplishment. The basic story of So Vam is about this boy in high school. His name is Kurt, and he is gay, and he gets bullied for being gay. He gets called all these derogatory names. He doesn't have a really good relationship with his father at home. He also has these dreams of being a drag queen and walking along stage. He has all these different problems that he's going through with school and at home. He turns to his best chick friend in this, and that's really what gets him through these rough patches that he has throughout this film. But what I did like about this film is it's very easy to root for Kirk's character in this. He is the underdog in this. He is getting called all these ridiculous names, and just for being gay. I mean, it's really not hard to really root for his character. You want to see him get out of this crazy lifestyle and live his dream. And then I did like the electronica music in this. It's played throughout this film. It's done really well, and I think that throughout this film, it doesn't have a ton of music throughout the film, but when it has that electronic music, it's pretty fun. It's also nice to see that he has a really good relationship with his best chick friend in this. She really gets him through all the tough times on everything that she's having, all these growing pains. Because it's really tough growing up in high school, and he's really struggling throughout all these times. I also did like the pacing in this. It's not a really long film. It's only 73 minutes. It goes pretty quick. We don't waste any time. When he gets attacked and gets bitten and changed into this vampire, it doesn't waste a lot of time getting to that point. Unfortunately for me, though, there is a lot of negatives with this film. Starting off with the dialogue. There's a lot of cheesy lines in this, and I expected it in this film, so necessarily I was expecting that we weren't going to get really good dialogue, because a lot of times I'll watch vampire films and you get a lot of cheesy moments. So this does have a lot of cheesy moments. I also felt that the lighting in this, it was very off at times. It felt very bright and very unnecessarily bright, if I may add. I didn't like we didn't get a lot of kills in this. There is only one particular scene that I remember that Kurt actually kills someone, and it's really, really cheesy, guys. It's really low budget. The budget really shows here. And I thought that we didn't get enough of his struggle to be a vampire from an actual mortal in this. I felt that we really didn't have enough time with his character to really develop him being this vampire. He doesn't really have a big struggle with feeding or anything like that. Most of the time, when you watch a vampire movie and somebody transfers from a human to a vampire, they're going to have that struggle to be a vampire. And I feel like we really don't see that here. And I think part of that is budget, and I think part of that also is because of just the short length time here to get this story out there. I also found the sound in this to be a little bit inconsistent. There is one scene where Kirk's boyfriend, he goes to visit his father and he's trying to find out where Kirk is because he's been missing at this point. And they're outside and they're talking by this doorway, by the front door, and these birds are chirping. And while they're doing this dialogue, the birds are really freaking loud. And the sound's a little bit off there. There are even parts in this film where the acting really shows. I looked up a lot of these actors and actresses to see if they've been in other films, and they really haven't. So the lack of experience also really affects how this film really is. I also found the script to be a little bit messy. It seems like we have a lot of ideas here, some that are better than others, and it feels like not all of them stick and all of them land here. It seems like because of the budget constraints and because we don't have a really long runtime here, we can't really fully flesh out some of the ideas. And then the editing in this, I also didn't think was always top notch, especially towards the end of the film. When the film ends, we get like 3 or 4 cuts with 4 different scenes, and it feels a little bit unnecessary with the editing style there. I personally didn't like that editing choice. I think if you had, 1 or 2 cuts, that would have been fine, but we didn't really need 3 or 4 different scenes there to figure out what the ending was going to be. And then my last negative about this film is just this whole vampire that is biting all these different kids to basically turn them into a vampire. I thought his character was just really disposable. I never really cared for his character at all. He never felt really scary or anything. It's just a guy in boots and a cowboy hat. I mean, I just didn't like the character at all. He didn't do anything for me, and what his fate was and what he really did throughout this film, he could have been just not in the film and I would have been okay with it. We could have had somebody else or somebody written a little bit better. So I think that is a writing constraint, not necessarily a director constraint there. So that's a little bit of criticism for that character. But if I was the director of this film and I'm looking at what I accomplished here, you did accomplish getting a movie onto Shudder, and at least you actually did try to put on a decent film for all of us folks. And I have to say, I respect what was done here, but I just think in the future, things could be cleaned up a little bit and, reworking of scripts and writing and just, these actors will eventually get better over time, but being in first films, it's really tough to really get a really good acting performance, especially for a movie that's really silly like this. I'm gonna give a score of this film a 2 out of 5. I think that it has some really good ideas here, but it's not always fully executed at the parts that it should be executed at. And then, tack on that this kid wanted to be a drag queen, and we get a lot of time spent with this whole drag queen moment, but we really needed a little bit more time with Kurt being a vampire and really seeing the struggles that he has being this vampire, and I feel like we don't get enough of that. And then at points, I think this film is just too silly for me, and I really take away from this film of not necessarily being bored, but at times really being taken away from this film because it's not necessarily focused throughout the entire film. But thank you guys for watching this review, and I'll see you guys on my next one.